some of the icons on the status bar are very needful for us when we are drawing. We looked at this customization bar here, or button, and I mentioned that the commands here with a check mark around them are the ones which show on the status bar. So let's start with grid. So grid is off, or I just put it off. Click on it to put it on. Now when I come to the status bar now, I expect to see grid here, and this is grid. So I put my cursor on it and let it rest, and that is the grid mode. So what is that? Let me turn it off, and then you'd see its impact. So I click on it, and then you see that the grid lines, the vertical and horizontal divisions on the working area disappears. So if you want the grid back, you just turn that on. All right, so that's the use of the grid. Now, let's look at what this one also does. That's the snap mode. So snap mode is off now. If you don't have the snap mode on the status bar, again, you can go to customization, and then you see that I have snap mode checked. So if you don't have it on the status bar, just click on it, and then it will appear on the status bar. Now I'll just try to draw a line. So I click here and click there. I can click wherever I want on the screen just to draw lines, and that is fine. I hit enter when I'm done. Okay, so I will now turn on the snap mode. So I click here, and it's now on. I'll go back, click on line. Then this time around, if you look at my cursor, you see that it doesn't move in a continuous manner. It appears that the cursor is snapping to some specific points on the screen, if you can see that. So if I were to zoom in, right, so I can put my cursor here. My cursor only snaps to the intersection of the grid lines, that is the horizontal and the vertical lines. So that is the use of you turning the grid on. That means that if I want to draw a line, I can start, I can't draw at any arbitrary position, but only at positions where there is intersection between the horizontal and the vertical lines. That helps you to be able to easily measure the or easily measure your drawings or take dimensions or whatever. Okay, so that's the use of the grid. Indeed, there's an arrow by it. When you click on that arrow, then you go to snap settings. You see that the snap spacing here is set to 10. So what that means is that the distance between a snap is 10 units, right? So it means that we are snapping, working in millimeters. It means that we are snapping 10 millimeters in the X, 10 millimeters in the Y. You can change these values if you want to. Okay. Okay. Now let's move on to the next one here, dynamic input, which is very important. Now, if I click on line, I can click here and click there, which is fine. Now, what if I want to enter, instead of clicking to indicate the length of the line, I want to rather enter the value on my keyboard? How can I do that? So one of the means by which you do that is to use the dynamic input. In fact, there are other methods to use, but you can always use the dynamic input as well. All right, so again, if you don't have dynamic input on your status, you'd have that from this point. So you go to customization and then you see I have it checked. So if you don't have it there, of course it will be unchecked. So you click on this and then it appears on the status bar, and this is dynamic input. So it's off currently. Now I click on it to turn it on. Now, when I turn it on, you see that the cursor does not have any entry boxes. If you look at my cursor, it has no entry boxes around it. When I click on the line 2 like this, now you see that I have 2 entry boxes close to my crosshairs. So I have the instruction specify first point, and then I have the first entry box, which is 240, and then the next one, which is 190. So that is the current position or the current location on screen. So as I move around, you see that the position of the cursor is what I have in the entry boxes. And indeed, if you remember the grade, I told you that we are snapping by a distance of 10. So you see that once my snap is still on, when I move the cursor, it snaps at a distance of, or at a spacing of 10. So that is just by the way. Now, the reason why I have those 2 entry boxes attached to my cursor is because I've put dynamic input on. So now I can just click, let's say 5200. And now you see when I move the cursor, I now have the ability to put in, let's say 100. And then when I hit tab, it switches to the other entry box. The other entry box, if you look at it, is in degrees. So that is the angle, and I want angle 0. So 0 is fine. So I put in 0 and then I hit enter. And then I can move downwards, let's say by another 100. And then the angle in this case that I want is 90. So I won't change anything. Once I have 90 there by default, I just hit enter, and then I move my cursor to the left or to the angle that I want, and then I can just put in 100 again and then enter. So I move to my left and then I put in 100, and the angle I want is 180. So I hit enter, and then I can just go and click at this point, or well, at this, let me just put in the 100 and the angle is 90, and then enter again. And that is how I enter lines with specific length. But mind you, I enter the line with specific length and with the angle. I'm able to do that because I have dynamic input on. If I don't have dynamic input on, I will not be able to enter the specific angles on the screen like I did. There are other ways you can do that using the command line window. Okay, all right. So that's with the dynamic input. Okay, so the next one that we can look at as far as drawing is concerned is ortho mode. So ortho is short for orthogonality. So orthogonality here, we want to draw lines only at 90 degrees. So specifically, we want lines that go, either horizontal or vertical. We don't want any other angle. So if you are drawing and you want all your lines to be constrained in the horizontal and the vertical direction, you can turn ortho mode on. If you don't have ortho mode here again, or on the status bar again, you can go to customization, and this is ortho mode. So when you click on it, now I have unchecked it, so it will disappear from the status bar. If I click back on it, ortho mode will now appear on the status bar, and I have it here. So I will click on ortho mode, and then you would see that I can move my cursor at any, or the lines can't go in any other angle apart from 90 degrees. So that is the use of ortho mode. If you need to draw lines only in horizontal and vertical directions, then you would have to take advantage of ortho mode to make your work, expedient. Okay, so the next one that we can look at, which is truly very convenient, is uh, object snap. Object snap. Now, mind you, we've already looked at this one here, which is the snap mode, right? So this one snaps to the grid. This one is object snap or O snap, and O snap snaps to an object, not to the grid. Now, the shortcut for O snap is F3. That is the function key 3. Okay. So again, if you don't have the O snap showing on your status, you can always come to your customization, and then we can look for O snap in here or object snap in here. All right. So once we come to customization, object snap, in fact, there are two types. There is the 2D object snap and there is the 3D. The one we are concerned with now is the 2D object snap. So I'll click on 2D object snap, and then it appears on my status bar, and then I can toggle it on and off here. So here I'll turn it on. All right. So when I go to line and I put my cursor, let me turn object snap off for now, and then let me click on line. Now when I put my cursor here, you see that there is no relationship with there is no relationship between the object, that is the square that is already there, and then the new line that I want to draw. Now if I go back and turn the object snap on, when I come to this point, you see that I have this greenish icon, right? And that is an endpoint object snap. What that means is that when I click here, my new line will begin from the endpoint of either the horizontal line or the vertical line. So when I click, that is what I get. Okay. Now I can go back and start the line command. When I bring my cursor close to the middle, I have this triangular snap. What that means is that when I click, I'm getting the endpoint of, I'm getting the midpoint of the vertical line, which is this point, right? So that is that. So that is the use of object snap. It's very handy. So for instance, if we came back here and then I put my cursor around here, you see that this gives me the endpoint of the line without me necessarily having to take any measurements. If I turn it off and I start the line 2, I won't get that. Now, if I had, let's say, a circle, if I wanted to draw a circle at the midpoint of this line, if I wanted to draw a circle at the midpoint of this line, right? So you see that without the object snap, I can't get it. I can't get the midpoint. I may have to do some calculations and all that. But when I go to, I turn on the object snap and then I come here, I get the midpoint of the line and then I can click, and that gives me it gives me the midpoint of the line, and then I can actually move. Let's say I want to fit the circle here, right? So me doing this means that I want the radius of the circle to be at the endpoint of that same line. So when I click, it puts the circle there for me without having to enter any values whatsoever. Now let's look at another one, which is called the object snap tracking. So object snap tracking. So object snap tracking works hand in hand with the object snap. So it's not on the status bar now. So I'll click this to show it on the status bar. This is the object snap tracking. So I'll turn it, let's say I'll turn it on. So what that does is that it works like projection lines. So if you want to project points on a drawing, then you can use the object snap tracking. So let's say, for instance, that I'm looking for the center of this horizontal line and the center of this vertical line. Now, let's say I want to draw a circle with the center being the midpoint of this line, of the horizontal line, and the midpoint of the vertical line. So this is what I do. First, let me click on circle. So I click on circle, and then I bring my cursor. Mind you, object snap is already on. So I can bring my cursor around the midpoint, and that gives me the midpoint of the horizontal line. But I don't click. You just put your cursor there, and then you move your cursor downwards. Now, you move to your left, which gives you the vertical line, and then you put your cursor on the midpoint, or the cursor will snap to the midpoint of the vertical line, and then you move it towards the center. When you move it towards the center, now you see that you have the two snaps meeting at the point that you want. So you have the midpoint of the horizontal, the midpoint of the vertical. Now, when you click, that will give you the intersection of those two, and that is going to be the center of what? The center of those two, or basically the center of the square, and you are able to position your circle there. So object snap tracking is very essential, and it speeds up your work. So I would advise that you practice with it and learn how to incorporate it into your drawing tool set. So let's try that one more time. So let's say I want to draw a line. I want the line to be in line with this, and then to be in line with that point. So I track both points. So I put my cursor here, and I move to my right, and I put the cursor there, move downwards. So I'll put the cursor here, move to my right, and then go and put the cursor at that point and move downwards. And then object snap tracking and object snap will do their thing. Then I can click, and then, if I want to move wherever I want to go, I can do that. Okay, all right. So these are some of the quick start tools that you need for tools that you need so long as the status bar is concerned. We may be looking at others as we move along, or we may be looking at advanced features as we move along, but for now we can do with this.